Albert Einstein. The name alone conjures up images of chalkboards filled with cryptic equations, wild white hair, and a mind that reshaped reality itself. But behind the theory of relativity, behind the Nobel Prize, behind the photo of him sticking out his tongue, was a brain unlike any other. Not just smarter, not just faster, but profoundly different. What made Einstein a genius wasn't just his knowledge, it was how he thought, his habits, his imagination, his emotional world, his stubborn, almost childlike curiosity. This is not just the story of his discoveries, it's an exploration into how his mind worked beneath the surface. Today, we're venturing into the hidden psychology of a genius and discovering lessons that can change how we think, create, and live. Einstein's brain, the physical blueprint of genius. When Einstein died in 1955, something strange happened. Without his family's permission, the pathologist performing the autopsy removed Einstein's brain and preserved it. For decades, it was studied, sliced into hundreds of sections, and photographed. What scientists found was astonishing. The part of his brain responsible for spatial reasoning and mathematical ability, the inferior parietal lobe, was significantly larger than average. His prefrontal cortex, linked to abstract thinking and focused attention, was unusually well developed. And perhaps most intriguingly, the corpus callosum, the bundle of fibers connecting the left and right hemispheres, was thicker than usual, suggesting enhanced communication between logic and creativity, between analytical and intuitive thinking. But despite all these anatomical wonders, Einstein's childhood showed no signs of brilliance. He didn't speak fluently until he was about 4. One family maid even referred to him as the dopey one. His teachers described him as lazy, distracted, and daydreaming. He hated the rigid structure of school and often clashed with his instructors. And yet, that same wandering mind would one day solve mysteries of time and space no one else dared to touch. The mind of imagination, thought experiments, and creative cognition. Einstein himself said, "Imagination is more important than knowledge," and he meant it. Unlike many scientists who relied on lab equipment and formulas, Einstein used the universe as his playground and his mind as the laboratory. He was known for his Gedanken experiments, thought experiments that allowed him to visualize abstract concepts with uncanny clarity. One of his most famous was imagining what it would be like to chase a beam of light. Would he catch up? Would time slow down? That mental image, which came to him as a teenager, would eventually form the foundation of his special theory of relativity. Another time, he pictured a man falling off a roof. If he dropped a ball while falling, would it float beside him? Yes, he thought. Both would be weightless. This led him to the principle of equivalence, a cornerstone of general relativity. These weren't just creative musings, they were visual simulations, deeply vivid mental rehearsals that transcended equations. Modern psychologists would classify this as extraordinary visual spatial intelligence, a rare ability to manipulate mental images with precision. Einstein didn't just calculate reality, he could see it as if watching a film play inside his head. Curiosity without end, the obsession that drove him. At the heart of Einstein's genius was something beautifully simple: curiosity. As a child, he was given a compass. He was captivated by how the needle moved, like even when nothing touched it. What was the invisible force behind it? That question never left him. Unlike most of us, Einstein didn't stop asking why when he grew up. He became more obsessed, more relentless. He once said, "I have no special talents. I am only passionately curious." This form of curiosity, what psychologists call epistemic curiosity, is a powerful force. It's the kind of mental hunger that drives someone to stay up all night just to understand one idea. Einstein would often become so absorbed in a problem that he'd forget to eat, sleep, or even notice the world around him. He wasn't driven by fame, money, or external validation. He was driven by mystery. And that internal fire, the need to know, fueled some of the greatest breakthroughs in human history. Silence and solitude, the hidden powers of isolation. Einstein wasn't a recluse, but he valued solitude deeply. He often spoke about how silence allowed his ideas to incubate. During his most productive years, he worked at the Swiss Patent Office, not in a lab or university. He would review inventions during the day and retreat into deep thought at night. It was during this period, without any institutional support, that he published 4 groundbreaking papers in 1905, his Annus Mirabilis, or miracle year. One of those papers introduced the special theory of relativity. Another explained the photoelectric effect, which would later earn him the Nobel Prize. Einstein's solitary habits weren't a coincidence. Solitude creates mental space, what psychologists today call a default mode network, where the brain makes new connections, accesses memories, and incubates insights. Einstein took long, aimless walks, letting his thoughts wander freely. He described these moments as sacred. He knew what modern research confirms, that sometimes doing nothing is the most productive thing of all. The rebel, nonconformity, and independent thinking. Einstein was a rebel, not in attitude, but in thought. He distrusted authority, rejected rigid thinking, and constantly challenged convention. In school, he clashed with teachers who demanded rote memorization. He questioned the rules, not just of society, but of the universe. A professor once told him, "You will never amount to anything." Einstein didn't care. He walked out, later calling school a factory that makes obedient citizens, not independent thinkers. This rebellious streak was essential to his creativity. Psychologists studying innovation have found that nonconformity is a key trait among highly creative individuals. Einstein wasn't afraid to be wrong. He wasn't afraid to be alone in his ideas. When he published his theory of relativity, many dismissed it as nonsense. He calmly waited, because to him, truth didn't need applause, it needed patience. The musician's brain, how creativity crossed domains. What most people don't know is that Einstein was also a gifted violinist. He often said that music was his sanctuary, his escape, but it was also more than that. It was his way of thinking. When stuck on a complex problem, Einstein would step away from his desk and play Mozart or Bach. Often the solution would emerge while he was immersed in music. He believed the rhythms and harmonies helped organize his thoughts. It wasn't just relaxation, it was insight. Neuroscience supports this. Music activates both hemispheres of the brain, strengthens working memory, and enhances abstract reasoning. For Einstein, playing music wasn't separate from doing science. It was part of the same creative process. He didn't see disciplines, he saw patterns. Whether in music or in space-time, he was always seeking harmony. Grit over genius, persistence through the unknown. Einstein's brilliance wasn't instant. He spent decades chasing theories that never quite worked. One of his lifelong pursuits was the unified field theory, a theory that would link all the forces of nature. He never completed it, but he never gave up. He once said, "It's not that I'm so smart, it's just that I stay with problems longer." This trait, what we now call grit, may be even more important than raw intelligence. Einstein endured isolation, rejection, and the agonizing silence that comes when a theory refuses to work. But he stayed in the fight. His mind was strong, but his spirit was stronger. In a world that chases speed and hacks, Einstein reminds us of the quiet power of persistence. The heart of the genius. For all his theories about the cosmos, Einstein never lost sight of the human world. He was a refugee who fled Nazi Germany. He spoke out against racism, war, and nuclear weapons. After World War II, he regretted the letter he had written urging the US to develop atomic bombs, fearing how that knowledge had been used. He spent his final years campaigning for peace, civil rights, and global unity. To Einstein, science without ethics was dangerous. He believed that wisdom had to be paired with compassion, that the mind should serve the heart. And in this, too, he was ahead of his time, embracing what modern psychologists call moral intelligence, the ability to live by values in an often chaotic world. The final lesson: think differently, live deeply. Einstein was more than a physicist. He was a philosopher, an artist, a dreamer. He wasn't perfect. He made mistakes. He struggled with relationships. But his mind, his way of thinking, offers us a roadmap not just to scientific genius, but to a more curious, creative life. He taught us that imagination is power, that solitude can be fertile, that rebellion is a virtue when guided by truth, that deep curiosity matters more than memorized facts, and that even the greatest minds are driven not by status, but by wonder. In the end, the greatest mystery Einstein ever solved wasn't time or space. It was the mystery of the human mind and how much it can do when it dares to think differently. So the next time your mind wanders, let it. The next time you question everything, keep going. Because maybe, just maybe, That strange idea, that spark of curiosity, that quiet moment alone is where your genius begins. If this journey inside Einstein's mind inspired you, share it with someone who's not afraid to think differently. And if you want more deep dives into the minds of history's greatest thinkers and how their psychology can change your life, don't forget to like this video, subscribe, and hit the bell so you never miss a new episode. Because this isn't just about understanding genius, it's about unlocking your own. Thanks for watching, and remember, stay curious